In March, Brad Garlinghouse spoke at the Digital Asset Summit in York 2025. There were also some important points he made in this speech or conversation that I think a lot of people missed. I want to go through this 1 minute at a time, second by second. I'll explain what's going on. I am going to tell you all the interesting things you need to know. Let's have some fun while we do this. Based on how much information I need to give you, this could be split into 2 different videos. I know that many of you don't like movies that last 25 to 30 minutes, so let's take it minute by minute and have some fun. We're almost at 100,000 followers, and I'd love for you to be a part of that goal and dream for me. Glad you found this video useful. If you want to do that and aren't already committed, you might want to do so. There is a like button here if you want to show your support for the station. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Great. Good job. Good job. Of course, I'm looking forward to the talk. It's great to be here with Brad. We also have a breaking story. You can find it on Twitter, but Brad might be able to summarize it for you. An update has been made to the request. It's great to be here at Digital Asset Summit and make news. I posted on X just before we came up here a few minutes ago that we can now say that the SEC is no longer seeking their appeal in the Ripple case. Of course we are. Yeah, thanks. Should we take a stand? Could I help you stand up? That's good for the whole business world. Please do something. It has been 4.5 years, 4 years and 3 months since the SEC first sued us. There's no doubt that the trip was painful in many ways. But as we talked about then, there are 2 things that stand out. I was sure that we would follow the rules and honor history. It was something we said back then, and now that I look at it, I feel like we were right. There's also something else I want to say. I recently posted a video on X in which I talk about how the system feels broken because we had to fight this fight for the business. There was also an SEC attack on the business and there were no victims, especially in the Ripple case. They didn't lose any money. This isn't true. You do know that the SEC did bad things that hurt people, right? It's us, but before that, I understand what Brad is saying here, just so you know what happened. If you haven't been following the news or this case, the judge ruled that the SEC asked for $2 billion, which would have put Ripple out of business and destroyed everything around it, right? In the XRP record, I think. Because the XRP system takes a big hit without Ripple. The judge said Ripple had to pay a fine of $125 million or $150 million, and also Ripple can't sell the XRP they have held in trust to banks, and Ripple wanted to keep the case even though the SEC dropped it because it wanted better terms. Okay, finally, the SEC decided to pay a $50 million fine. They are now working to get the judge to lift the ban so Ripple can sell XRP to institutions. I do believe that's an important part of this that many people are missing, right? The thing that Ripple does for a living is bring financial institutions into the environment. Sometimes, in order to make a deal, those banks need XRP. After hearing a lot of people say it, I think all of the escrowed XRP has already been sold. That's not something I believe to be true. That's not true for an easy reason. You should know that Ripple releases 1 billion XRP every month through a trust. 37 billion XRP are being held in trust. Ripple will sometimes take some XRP and put it back in lockup. If that XRP had already been sold, they wouldn't keep locking it up, since 1 billion is released every month and there are 37 billion in total, which means 37 months would have to pass before that XRP could be used again. I don't see that at all. As things become clearer and the Trump administration supports cryptocurrencies, I can see some of that XRP starting to get taken up. This is because safe coins and digital assets will now be regulated in the US. Don't forget that you have more than just financial companies. You also have systems that support the financial market. You also have things like SWIFT, right? Key businesses are also there. It seems likely that all of these players will be very interested. They check out what SBI did. The XRP that SBI owns is worth more than the whole bank, right? That means that other banks are aware of that. I think that these banks will want to keep XRP to protect all of their other assets that they have on hand. Let me play this. The SEC said something like, "Oh, I see, something bad happened. It was only that they were trying to be mean. They were not being honest, that's all." And thankfully, the courts told them to stop. However, I agree that this is a time to be happy. I believe that's good for both our business and the other side of it. We like it for Blockworks. Things look good for Bitwise, which is good for Ripple. So I'm very pleased with it. Good job then. I believe that what you said was correct. It really does feel like a win for the business world and the start of something new. Does it feel like a new part of your life? Oh my God, I believe the new phase began with a clean slate in both Congress and the executive branch, am I right? When Trump took office, he put forward Paul Atkins, Scott Besson, and David Sachs. It seems like these people are very smart and are looking at things in a practical way. They want this business to do well in the US. I believe you are younger than I am. I've been around for a long time, the same age. It's been really interesting to see how the growth of the internet in the US has helped the country's foreign policy. Still, the US SEC was going after this business in other countries, which was the exact opposite of what we should have wanted to do at any level. And finally, I hope that even people who have been against crypto have seen that there is one being against crypto has no point, and you saw how that changed many races. A year or so ago, I said on Twitter that I thought Elizabeth Warren would lead the Democrats off a rock. Yes, she did. We were pretty close to being right about that. This Congress is definitely pro-innovation and pro-crypto on both sides of the aisle, so I think there will be a lot going on. As the last group talked about, do you agree that you need to support new ideas in crypto right now? You have it. What is the number? About 50 million Americans? It looks like 1 in 6 Americans now has crypto, right? Like, hello, there will be no going back on this tech. You know that the more you fight it, the more votes you'll lose, because a lot of people care about this stuff. Also, it's a shame that Democrats chose to die on this hill, right, of new ideas for digital assets. It's very scary. It's really crazy. Going forward, I hope Democrats can accept the crypto business. I'm not saying that every Democrat did this, but the heads of most of them were out there yelling at the industry and telling Gary Gensler to sue Ripple and all of these other people. It's just plain ugly. It's not clean. Yes, without a doubt. In that spirit, I'd like to ask you something. You've been at Ripple for 10 years now, getting old. Backstage, you and I made fun of the fact that on Twitter people like to post pictures of Brad at the start of Ripple and Brad Curran. Yes, there are more gray hairs. Okay, one more thing I want to say to those people. Try letting the government sue you and see what happens. Okay, a little more gray hair. 10 years. I want to know if things in space have gone faster or slower than you thought they would. Yeah, I would say that there are things that, you told me about. I had the pleasure of being at the crypto meeting a couple of weeks ago as well. Ripple, on the other hand, hasn't been able to get a meeting with anyone at the White House for the past 4 years. We are now welcome to join. I would not have thought that 10 years ago we would have crypto meetings at the White House. In that way, it's gone by quickly. I wouldn't have thought we'd be done. I don't know what the market value of everything is, but it's at least $3 x trillion. I wouldn't have thought those things would happen. 10 years ago, about $60,000 worth of XRP changed hands every day. Wow. How much money do you have today? Better. Those are the things that went by faster. I think the business and the people you hear talking up here need to find useful things that haven't gone faster. It's not enough to just trade and speculate. For lack of a better phrase, you are seeing green shoots. For the most part, I think that the threats from the SEC, the OCC, and other groups are now behind us.